The Deadlock community has been filled with discussion about a draft for a very long time now, and it has come to a head here with the matchmaking update, where Valve introduced a weird sort of halfway point where you can change your character once at the start of a game, but it's not really a full draft, not like a lot of people were expecting. But the thing about adding a draft is there's not actually a clear-cut answer as to whether a draft is definitively needed or not. There are actually good arguments both for and against having a draft in this game, as opposed to the system that we currently have where you choose your character before entering a match, and the matchmaking algorithm creates its own team comp rather than letting you decide what characters are on your team. So that's what I want to discuss in this video. Why should they add a draft? Why shouldn't they add a draft? What do I think? And at the end of the video, I want to hear what you think in the comments section down below. Do you think we need a draft, or is it better to keep the system that we currently have? So let's start by talking about the reasons why proponents of a draft believe a draft should be added to the game. The primary reason is that they believe it enhances player agency. When players can control the heroes on their team, they are more responsible for the outcome of the match and whether they win or lose, and this player agency is good for competitive integrity. No one can point to the automatically created draft and say, hey, that's why we lost, we just got comp diffed by the automatic matchmaker. Instead, it is entirely the fault of the players for winning and losing the game, because they were responsible for which characters they had on their team. Drafts also increase the strategic depth of the game because they allow players to intentionally create comps with powerful synergies, like drafting Dynamo and Lash on the same team so you can use both their ults together. In a draft system where players take turns choosing, it also enables counterpicking. So if you see that the enemy team has Lash, you can draft a bunch of characters that are anti-dive, or a bunch of characters that have abilities that ignore Death Slam, like Quantum Entanglement. All of these reasons support the draft as the most competitively pure system to have. If the goal is just to have competitive integrity, then a draft must be implemented, at least in ranked. I don't think people are really asking for a draft in casuals or, God forbid, Street Brawl, but for ranked, a draft makes sense because it puts all of the control in the hands of the players and leaves nothing up to chance. There's no random chance that on your team you will have a Dynamo or the enemies will have a Dynamo or any other character like that. But opponents of a draft have a different idea in mind. They believe that a draft will actually get in the way of a streamlined quality gameplay experience, and that the benefit to player agency is not actually that substantial or worthwhile compared to the downsides of having a draft. So the automatically generated team comps guarantee a level of quality that players will not necessarily achieve as consistently, because players are not always the best at drafting, especially the lower down in ranks you go, the less people are going to have an idea of what characters work well together and how to create a well-balanced team comp. And these oversights are actually a little visible right now because of the ability to change your character once at the start of a game. Anecdotally, I had a match today in Oracle 5, which is basically the new Eternus. That's where all the Eternus players placed in this new system. And yeah, the enemies opted to switch their main frontliner for another gun build when they were already stacked with gun builds on the team. That's the match you're watching behind me. Notice how they don't really have a frontliner apart from technically kind of Apollo? Yeah, the Haze was supposed to be a Shiv. And that would have been a much more balanced comp than what they ended up choosing, where they swapped out Shiv for a Haze, so they had Haze, Wraith, and Venator, and then Ivy also went gun build, and Paradox also went gun build, so they had some build disasters on top of that. 5 people playing gun. We just completely and utterly destroyed them. So this poor drafting decision made defeat inevitable, and it wouldn't have happened if they had stuck with the auto-assigned comp. It would have been much more fair, and they would have had a better chance of winning. With a full draft, such examples will be more common and more extreme. And drafts also take a long time to complete. They can add multiple minutes to each match, depending on how long players take to choose and ban heroes, especially if they're going back and forth, you get 30 seconds to choose, you get 30 seconds to choose, multiply that times 12 players, you're gonna be there a while, and that is going to discourage some people from queuing ranked because they simply don't want to take that long to even get playing in the first place. The final reason why a draft shouldn't be added is because the draft will also exacerbate the issue of metagaming. Players will be more incentivized to draft the absolute best heroes in every game, or they'll be forced to play against them every game because of pressure from other players and the desire to forge the perfect comp. The current system guarantees that you will see a wider variety of heroes in every game, including more off-meta picks. This is just overall healthier for the game. If every match has mostly the same heroes in it every single time, things are just gonna get boring, it'll be stale, and it'll actually end up making the balance of the game a little bit worse because you'll just be bashing your head up against the same walls over and over again, and it won't feel very good. So, as you can see, there are good reasons to support and oppose a draft. It's not a cut and dry system. And personally, I was more in favor of a draft many months ago, but as time has gone on, and as I've actually gotten to experiment a little bit with this new ranked system and seeing what people do with this character changing button, I've actually grown more opposed to a draft because I do think that the streamlining of the old system is just really nice. You get into a game, you get characters, and the comps are mostly okay. And especially if you compare it to games outside of Deadlock, where choosing your characters and counterplaying and all that is the norm, you do oftentimes end up with comps that are really bad. Like, I remember back in my Paladins days, how often it was to have a team comp without a tank, or with just one tank when the meta is 2 tanks, or no support. God forbid you have no healer on your team. Yeah, that happens, and it's miserable. And with the current system, you never have that problem. Yeah, sometimes your comps are still, a little bad. They're not great, and you do get comp diffed. But I don't think it's physically possible in a game such as this to always have truly even comps going up against each other. I think the best that you can do is try to balance the type of roles that you have on the team. So every team has one tankier, frontline type character, one support type character, carry type character, utility, stuff like that. So that way you're not too skewed towards having one single archetype or 2 single archetypes and just really lacking a lot on your team as a result. Now, people at the highest levels of the game in Eternus will probably be able to make a draft work okay. And if a draft were to be implemented, I do think that, at first they should roll it out in a limited capacity to people at the very highest echelons of the game. Because I feel like if you had a draft in, like, Emissary, people are going to draft the worst comps you've ever seen. It's going to take an extra couple of minutes to get into the match, and it's not going to be good. People will be very upset as a result of that system. But for super competitive games in Eternus 6 or scrims or, a professional setting, a draft does definitely make sense. Competitive integrity is a very good reason to have a draft. It's just not something that really is necessary for the vast majority of players, though, because most people aren't trying to have the most peak competitive experience possible where everyone is at 100%. That's unrealistic for the majority of ranks. Even like Phantom Ascendant, once everybody shakes out and is actually at the rank they belong at, they probably don't need a draft. That's my 2 cents on the matter. But like I said, let me know what you think in the comments section down below. I would love to hear from you. Do you want a draft in this game? Would you prefer it? Or do you think the system that we have now, where the game auto-assigns you a comp, is better? You just get into the action, you have a decent team comp, and you just go at it. Which system do you prefer? But if you've enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like and subscribe down below so you don't miss out on future videos from me. And if you really want to support the content and keep me doing what I'm doing, consider becoming a member down below as well. You get access to a whole bunch of perks, and you support the channel directly in the process. I would really appreciate that. But with all that being said, thank you guys for watching. I will see you all next time. Peace out.